From Jesus feeding the masses by manifesting bread out of thin air, to him calming the volatile storms at sea, here are some of the most astonishing miracles of Jesus that challenge skeptics. Now, skeptics tend to have a lot to say about the loaves and fish miracle. This is when Jesus fed the masses and is one of the miracles that took place at the wedding at Cana. So, according to Scripture, as the day was turning to night, the disciples grew worried about just what the large group of people would eat. They only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, but it's said that Jesus wasn't worried. You see, he told the disciples to bring him the food and then to have the people sit on the grass. There were thousands of people that were now spread out in front of him, all of whom were surely hungry and depending on Jesus to do something. This is when Jesus began to take a piece of bread and break it into pieces without ever running out. This kept everyone fed, making for a pretty mind-blowing miracle. Of course, skeptics often bring up the fact that it would likely be a weird sight for the disciples to see Jesus creating bread out of thin air. Like, just what would they have seen happen when Jesus broke the bread? But like the other miracles that took place at Cana, a lot of these astonishing events definitely require one to have a certain amount of faith to truly grasp them. Keep in mind that this isn't the only time Jesus is known to have used his miracles to feed people. However, it is a topic that skeptics frequently raise. But this isn't the only miracle of Jesus that has gotten a ton of attention from people, because the death of Lazarus is also one that is often called into question by skeptics. Now, to truly understand this miracle, you'll have to first see why it's such a significant event in the Bible. Lazarus' death is very deeply intertwined with his relationship with Jesus. You see, he was a beloved friend of Jesus, and after Lazarus fell ill, his sisters, Mary and Martha, began getting worried for his life. They knew Jesus had the capability of carrying out miracles, so they sought Jesus' help in finding a cure for their brother. But by the time Jesus arrived, Lazarus had already died and had been buried for 4 days. This is when Jesus carries out the miracle, bringing Lazarus back to life straight from his grave. It's without a doubt a scene that's incredibly stunning and one that has the potential to move anyone who reads about it. But skeptics, as always, still have their doubts about the whole thing. Even the religious leaders of the time were surprised and disturbed by this miracle. For one, it meant that Jesus' growing popularity could come as a threat to their own power. Many of them also feared that the powers could lead to a rebellion from the people since Jesus was clearly taking a stab at their authority and status. This skepticism then led to direct opposition to Jesus from the religious leaders at the time. In their minds, their own control over power and influence was the only thing that truly mattered, even if it meant denying miracles that had been taking place in front of them in broad daylight. This tradition of skepticism by people who were blinded by their own hunger for power or insecurities is something that continues to this day. People still continue to question miracles like the raising of Lazarus by asking why Jesus didn't simply heal Lazarus right away. To answer that question, there's a good chance that Jesus delayed his trip to Bethany to ensure that Lazarus had actually died. This was to ensure that he would be able to carry out the miracle and to showcase to people one of his astonishing miracles. In this case, people would attain an amazing lesson and would also get to see the compassion that Jesus has for people. Considering that the Bible describes Jesus as being omnipotent, surely he would have known the condition that Lazarus was in, and that by delaying the visit, Jesus and the disciples would reach a time when he had already passed away. The waiting period of 3 days before Jesus raised Lazarus holds a lot of biblical meaning too. It is to showcase the extent of the miracle and to display Jesus' divine power. In a way, it's meant to act as proof for any skeptics who would question if Jesus has control over death itself. This could only have been achieved through the literal resurrection of someone who had been declared deceased. But as is quite clear, skeptics continue to arise, even with astonishing miracles taking place in front of their eyes. Like I said, the religious leaders at the time mostly wanted to challenge Jesus' increasing popularity, which led to them not wanting to admit the existence of these miracles. And there are plenty of other miracles of Jesus that led to questions from skeptics. Another miracle that is frequently called into question by skeptics is when Jesus healed the deaf and mute man of Decapolis. According to the Gospel of Mark, when Jesus entered the region of Decapolis, people brought him a man who couldn't hear and barely talked. They begged Jesus to place his hand on the man and to heal him as a result. As expected, Jesus conducts yet another miracle here, healing the man and giving him the ability to once again hear the world and speak. Many people view the miracle through a modern lens and question whether something of this nature would be possible through science. While some technology has been developed that can help people who are hard of hearing, it's clear that when discussing Jesus and his miracles, you have to view things from a mindset that goes beyond science and worldly knowledge. Trying to dissect this miracle, or any other for that matter, will likely not yield a lot of benefit. But that hasn't stopped skeptics from continuing to challenge the miracles, even if they're not necessarily getting a lot of results. If you were to see these miracles from the fact that they were meant to showcase to the world Jesus' abilities and compassion, then it makes sense why these things happened. Take Jesus' first miracle as an example. This is when he turned water into wine at Cana in Galilee. Many consider this to be one of the most interesting miracles that Jesus has done. The entire event has led to a lot of speculation from skeptics who wonder about the logistical possibility of something like this occurring. So after the wine at the wedding that Jesus and Mary were attending had run out, Jesus decided to ask the servants to fill the jugs with water. While he was hesitant at first, he ultimately went through it. Skeptics often question why this miracle took place at all and what lesson could possibly be learned from it. After all, replenishing the wine at a wedding can't really point toward a deeper biblical meaning, right? Well, the truth is that there are certainly lessons that this lesson, like many others, attempts to teach people. For one, it informs people that Jesus has the capability to carry out miracles that go beyond healing or raising people from the dead. While the wine might seem like a small deal at first glance, it goes to show that there is nothing that is too small for Jesus to deal with when it comes to the lives of the people he cares about. People tend to take lessons from this to continue to find a solution for the struggles in one's life, no matter how big or small they might appear. There's one other miracle of Jesus that often leads to a ton of comments from skeptics. And this is when Jesus calmed the storm at sea. As is the case with a lot of the miracles, the purpose they provide to people is that of learning, for one to be able to see the great acts being conducted and to take inspiration and encouragement from them. Similarly, in the case of this miracle, when Jesus was face to face with a massive storm, he was able to calm the sea down, showing that even the winds and water obeyed. Biblically, this goes to show that even storms exist because of God's command over them. Many also state that the storm is meant to represent the tempest of one's own soul in this case, and how it must be calmed. Skeptics like to wonder about the possibility of such an event occurring, but the same can be said for many of the other miracles I've talked about. It goes to show that if you fail to understand the deeper message and meaning behind these miraculous events, then questioning and challenging them almost becomes second nature. In any case, from him calming the volatile storms at sea to Jesus feeding the masses by manifesting bread out of thin air, those were some of the most astonishing miracles of Jesus that challenge skeptics.